Yeah.
That's how we started getting.
Yeah, if you weren't here, come on up.
Once those start, I'll be lifted at 5:45 after a desk shift.
So we had our martini glasses.
And then the next night.
Oh, golly. Oh, good. I thought I forgot to bring the folder there.
All of our alternates are.
All right.
So we have no extras now.
Take just one of those.
Just saying it.
Okay, we got Jameson on. Welcome, Jameson. We got Mackenzie. So Jameson, need your camera on. All right, so where's my little attendance type sheet? Here we go. Let's see, just point to me your sheet that you got the answer for your homework check here. All right, so awesome check, Jonathan check. Doesn't matter if you got the right answer or the wrong answer, just like to see that you did it. Zeke, check. Andrew, check. And McKenna, Caitlin, check. Check, check. No check, but you were gone. Check for Gabe. And Julian was gone.
Carlos is on his food taste good.
Check. All right. Well, Carlos missed out because he's late for class. We'll try to design incentives like points to see if Carlos can start coming to class on time. All right, so with that said, what'd you get for the old martini glass? What was happening at the end? So the very last, part D.
Well, it's doubling part B.
Doubling part D. So what's the doubling mean? I think that's where some people struggled with it. What did it mean to double? Jonathan, come on up.
We'll give him Tracker.
That's stable.
So Jonathan's the first contestant here. So you all are going to get a chance like Jonathan's getting, because I know you guys are like, oh, I wish you would have picked me, I wish you would have picked me, to come up and share your work. So when we do homework and stuff, we'll kind of have you guys come up and show your stuff. So go ahead and put it on the document camera.
Okay.
So you can show your answers. And then where we left off with yesterday, I guess start with part C, because they're kind of related a little bit. So what's going on with C and D? And maybe we should back up before you go. What is the sides? Can you come down with the martini glass? Just to review, sides of the martini glass are reflecting
Our like service zone.
service zone, but the sides are specifically something though. Net price of the, yeah, it helps identify the full net price, but specifically the sides as opposed to the stem of the martini glass.
The opportunity cost of the bread.
No. The stem is the opportunity cost at the factory.
Okay.
What is the side specifically? And this is the most important part of the model. Remember, we're 2 miles from the factory. The stem tells us something. Or not the stem, the sides. What is the side reflecting? That's really how you answer C and D. Travel cost, right? It's the transaction cost or the transportation cost. The slope of it is telling you how costly it is to move product from one destination to the next, right? So here, the slope of this down to over 2 miles cost me 2/12 of a loaf, right? So the transaction cost is the slope of the side of the martini glass. That's telling you your transportation costs. And then as Kaylin was getting into, the total cost of the product is the combination of the cost at the factory where there's no transportation costs, and now adding on the transportation costs depending on how far you're going. All right, so Jonathan, take it from there now that we've kind of reviewed the thing. What went on with C and D? And maybe raise the paper up a little bit. There we go.
Oh, let me reread this.
Well, you did, this is all right here. So we had an innovation that shortened the stem, to 2/12.
So because the innovation in transportation is doubling the travel speeds, instead of being like this, it'll widen out because they can go farther for, I guess, less bread.
Yeah. Now, I saw some of you taking, it's doubling, so it's 2 times the slope. But that actually had the opposite effect, right? Because the new slope isn't 2/12, it's 1/24.
But it's negative, right?
Yeah, you have the negative slope, but I'm saying in terms of like, if you think it's twice as productive, it's really 2 times 12 is 24, so that you get 1/24th. So that the sides of the martini glass go outward. And now you have a bigger market area, which brings you into D. Go ahead, Jonathan.
So because it doubled the consumer's travel speed, the width of the market area is going to increase twofold, so from 20 miles to 40 miles.
Yep, so each one just doubled. So one side of the martini glass, half of it went from 10 to 20, and then the whole market area in total was now 40. Okay, questions or comments there? You can go grab a seat. Thank you, Jonathan. All right, so let's do another one, since that one was so much fun. Now, instead of a martini glass, we have a little bit different look. So, again, group together. There's a couple of glasses now. We got one of them there. There's another. You guys got it? Very good. Oh, wait. Oh, yeah, they're back. So we got that. All right, I'll take the extra. Okay, so now we have a little bit different situation, still dealing with market areas. And I'll try to blow this up for you guys online. I know it might be a little bit difficult here, but so the net price of beets received by farmers decreases as the distance to the processing plant increases. The market area of the typical sugar beet processing plant is 80 miles wide. So a system of processing towns develops with a distance of 80 miles between them. So if we go back to the picture now, the distance here is 80 miles, and this is distance from the coast. So we have some sort of imaginary natural thing like an ocean or a lake or something that's restricting us from going this way. So it kind of gives us an endpoint. So we got 80 miles, and then what is going on here in the middle? This was the net price of beets again. Why is it an upside down here from what the description just showed? The net price of beets. Why is it the tallest, the net price at 40, according to what we just read in that paragraph? See, that's where the factory's at. So you imagine a farmer is harvesting the crop. The farmer might be located at this place, but they have to bring the crop to the processing plant. And so this farmer who's located at 40 doesn't have any distance to go. These do, and so the more costly driving the truck full of beets is going to be gas and everything. So same thing's going on with the slope of the line being the transportation, the transaction cost, and now gives us a market area. Why did this one form again? Well, there was incentive for a processing plant with the 80-mile radius to go so that we don't go too far down the net price. Because at some price, it's not worth it for the farmer to bring their beets to the factory anymore, right? And so that's what's establishing the idea of multiple towns. Okay, so with that background, consider 2.3, which shows the market areas for sugar beet processing plants. Suppose that an increase in the price of diesel fuel doubles the cost of hauling sugar beets from farms to processing plants. Modify figure 2.3 to show the effects of higher transportation costs. Think about the slope, work in your teams. And Mackenzie, I thought we were going to be able to make a digital team, but I haven't heard from Jameson yet. Jameson, can you unmute? I don't know if you were talking. Are you there? Jameson going once. Oh,
Yeah.
hey, there we go. Welcome, welcome. So do you have a camera?
Yeah, I don't know why it's not working though.
Okay. You can play around with the video setting and see if you pick a different one or something. Otherwise, what I'd like you guys to do is I can put you and Mackenzie into a work group. But honestly, you guys can probably just talk together on it a little bit. I know I'm kicking myself because I didn't bring, I could have emailed these or posted them, but I didn't. So I might be able to go back and do that, but if you guys can see, a thumbs up. Mackenzie, can you see the question okay?
Oh, I was feeling.
Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, good.
But I want to like copy down the graphics.
Yeah. Yeah, do you want to take a picture like we did last time, or do you want to just...
Yeah. I can take pictures.
All right, let's do a picture. Jameson, you can do the same. Pull out your phone, and let's see if Mr. Shaky Hands. See if we can get it. Doesn't ever seem to focus in good right away. Oh, there we go, there we go. Up.
What's wrong, sir?
Oh,
narrows
come
it.
on.
It's gonna be easier to take the pictures from really on the screen.
Okay,
Yeah, it was either vitamin or.
it was, okay, good.
These are still kinds of margin.
Yeah.
Oh, good. All right, yeah, just take that then.
So then now it's
Yeah,
gonna be.
so the point.
Okay, now I just need the.
Perfect, and I'll just leave that up
I
here.
think so.
I would say so. I would say so.
Well, that would just be the
this
When we come back to the
Now we're talking about
we'll be able to get
transportation.
the physical copies.
What
Yes,
about
yep,
that?
I have extra physical copies here, so.
It
For the
would,
way it is.
these might like angle up more.
That's, I think, because
I think-
I know.
Yeah, I think it's gonna look more like that, because these are still kind of martini glasses, so it's gonna flare up.
I'll go up to like,
Would it go up to 80? I don't know the exact number, but they're gonna look something like
yeah,
that.
I'd say this. Just gonna make it safer.
Well, that's like right where the fact is.
Yeah, because if you think about it, they make some more money.
It just makes the peaks higher.
Well, if you think about it, the factory's right here. Why would the price change if the cost of transporting it is like right next to there? So why would this
Yeah.
shift up?
But I still don't understand why, like, right where the factory is, it's supposed to.
Since the transport costs more than transport, yeah. People just don't have to transport it, right? Like they give more money, so it becomes all. You're gonna, well, we're charging for the money, what you're saying. Then, so this is,
Well, why is
so
the
like
price
this.
highest if it's right on top of the factory?
Because they don't have to travel as far, they're gonna charge a little higher, they're gonna lower the price, but it'll be reported away, so they can still sell it.
Yeah, that's good.
Oh, so they're charging like.
So would it flatten
Okay.
out more then? So I'm thinking this plane is gonna stay the same, but it's the lines that are gonna change.
Now, let me challenge you.
So I think the
Looks like
lines
you got
are
it.
gonna narrow.
Try to come up with a
The
function
like it is.
for that answer of the net price.
That's what I think.
A formula that would allow you
The lines are
to
staying.
calculate and do net price. You guys good?
It's one hundred percent.
You're a little, that's not right on.
If it's not 10, 40.
Yeah, work on that a little bit with your slopes. Probably just went the wrong direction or something.
So is it, it's
That's
just
why
like.
now.
You guys don't have
So
it.
would it actually just
No, what's the fraction to get
4
to
to
1
1
eighth?
eighth
What you're asking?
is not
It's a fraction to get
It would just make the valleys not as deep.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, so do the calculation is what is the new slope?
Yeah, that's what I did. But then if you wanna
New slope and the old slope. Well, yeah, with the formula, yeah, just try to come up with a formula, either the new price and the old price or vice versa. I mean, it's gonna be a similar formula.
Yeah, yeah.
Mackenzie, did you get part A yet? And Jameson? That's what's hard without your camera, I can't look.
No, I'm still trying to.
You know,
Well, and Jameson, I guess if you weren't here for the martini glass, then this is going to be a little difficult. Or did you watch the video from yesterday,
Yeah.
where we talked about the martini glass?
Why this is 40?
You're muted if you're talking.
40
Oh.
here?
Okay. All right. So, Mackenzie, I think you're kind of on your own. We'll end up reviewing this one. So, do you have any questions?
I mean, I'm still kind of
It'll
confused.
change.
Yeah, but he's saying like
Then you
140 per mile or just 180.
Okay.
But this is
Okay.
already.
Well,
I'm just trying to talk down.
I'm going to go a little slower through this one. So the one from, and it's similar of what we're doing from the one from yesterday. Okay, so the slope of the net price curve originally is what?
0.25.
0.25 or 1/4. So let's start there just to kind of make sure we're all on the same page. Coming from this graph, how did you get 1/4?
It's rise
Rise over run.
Yeah, 10 over 40.
You can do 10 over 20. You can do whatever you need to do. We have a 35 here too. So we've got a run of 20 and a rise of 5. So good old rise over run gives us a 5 over 20, which equals 1/4, which equals 0.25. All right, and so then with the innovation, we have it doubling. So an increase in the price of diesel fuel doubles the cost of the sugar beet haulers. And so what's going to happen here on doubling the cost?
Price of those further away is going to go up a little bit.
Okay, price is going to go up, and by how much?
By double.
Double, right. So everything's going to be double. So the thing is, remember, it's not a even increase for everyone. If you're next to the factory, it doesn't affect you, right? So it's not a shift up like this, where it affects everybody, all the beet haulers. It's only the ones that are furthest away. So for the one furthest away, it would be one way to do it. What is the one furthest away going to run? You could think about it was 25 cents. You could calculate how much their cost was and do it that way. Or we can do the doubling thing. How did you guys do this?
So I'm thinking that they're going to pay $5 more.
$5 more at the 35th. At the 30th, at the 0. When they have to travel 40 miles.
Yes.
Okay?
Per 20 miles.
So 40 miles, one way to think about it is if you do have to go 40 miles like this company does at 0,
Oh,
if you
asked-
go 40 miles, then 1/4, 25 cents per mile is how many dollars? 25 cents a mile. Jacob? Louder? 5. Right? So it's 40 miles times 25 cents a mile is going to cost me $5 worth of money. And now when it's 50 cents again, or when it doubles the price, it's going to cost me another 5. So it's going to go up to 35. Right? It's going to go up to 35. Now, the person who's at 0, we've already established doesn't even affect, right? So what about the person 1 mile? What was that person spending at 1 mile, right here at 39? What was the person with 1 mile out from the factory spending before? 25 cents, right? And so the net price, their net price of beets was 25 cents less. Instead of being 40, it was $39.75. It cost them $0.25. All right, so that was before, and now what does it cost them? 50 cents. All right, so the same thing. So what we're doing here is flattening it out. Looks like some of you had that the slope of that is just flattening out.
Wait, shouldn't the slope steepen? Shouldn't it become steeper?
Well, the further out you are, the more costly it is. Right?
Yeah, so it should be less. So the people.
So
who
it's-
work-
So it's more expensive.
Yeah,
So the price that you're getting is higher.
No, the price
Is
should
that
be
right?
lower.
Does everybody agree with Bryce?
No,
Yeah, I think it should be
lower.
steeper.
It needs to be steeper.
I think that should be steeper.
Steeper?
Yeah,
Carlos
I
is
agree
saying
with that.
steeper. Jonathan says no.
I usually recommend steeper.
So that's.
So what does the net price mean? Let's just get my marker bag out here. Well, actually, I don't need the marker bag. I guess I can do it right here. What is the formula for the net price?
For the first one.
Just in general. The whole thing is the net price. How does the farmer calculate his or her net price?
40 minus 1/4, or 0.25 per mile. That's before the diesel price.
Before the diesel price.
Yeah.
Okay, and so then what is it after?
40 minus 0.5 per mile strip.
All right, so does it look like this, or does it look like
That's the bottom.
the first one? A or B?
It's
A or B?
B.
Show of hands, A. Show of hands, B. Kayla McKenna votes
I'm erasing it because I messed up.
B.
Sure.
Okay, I heard a B. Mackenzie, B or A? Gotta be track along. I'm gonna call on you too. B or A? You got a 50-50 shot. That's the good news. A? All right, so you got in the A camp. So we got some A's and B's. All right, well, is anybody confused about that formula? Does that formula make perfect sense, I hope?
Okay.
The price, the net price that you're getting, which is kind of your profit basically, right? You've got a sale, everybody with me, that you have a sale of 40 bucks. So that's your gross price, if you will. And then what is this?
The distance.
Distance, it's a transaction cost of you traveling to the plant. Should there be a minus sign or a plus sign?
Minus.
Minus sign, right? I'm trying to get you guys to be comfortable with. So we're subtracting on. I'm not going to get 40, am I? And in fact, this is what this shows: is the person who's 40 miles out is only getting 30 bucks after taking into account. So this formula is tight. Everybody, yeah? Thumbs up. So if you believe in the formula, now it's pretty easy, right? Of whether it's A or B.
Is steeper.
So does the person get more or less? Well, now this is the new formula, right? Diesel prices are up, diesel cost is up. So then M is still 40. So 40 times 0.5 is 20. 40 minus 20 is 20. So it's B.
I support him. I was the only one supporting that.
All right, so this is the, this is the old, this is the new. And so then what's your distances here?
Really not reality.
So what's your distance
Yo, but I didn't understand.
formulas? What do those change to?
But I didn't know how to get to 20.
30 per ton to 20 per ton. So the number of processing plants remains at 3. So the net price simply falls from 20 or from 30 to 20. Okay, any last questions? Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't get how you get to 20.
The 20 on
yeah,
the
you did
axis?
something and I didn't understand.
So you said you understood the net price formula, right?
Yeah.
It was 40 minus 0.5 M.
Uh-huh.
And so this company is 40 miles from the plant, correct? 40 miles. So for that company, let's call it the net price of company 0. I'm going to put a subscript 0. Is 40 minus 1/2 of being 40 miles away equals 20. And so that's just this, that's the cost to the farmer at 0. What is it at 20? Let's just, since
Now I get it.
Carlos brought it up here, at 20, what's the net price? Well, we do the same thing. So the net price for a farmer located at position 20 would be 40 minus 0.5 times 20.
That's 30.
40 minus 30 equals, or 40 minus 10
Equals 70.
equals 30.
Now I got it.
And that goes here. Graphically, you'd be going at 20 up to here. Boom, you're right at 30 where we were before. Okay, any other last questions or comments? All right, so that ends. Well, it doesn't end because we're going to do a little bit more here. Let's do some other problems. So you guys, what's assigned for Sunday night for chapter 3?
Reading the Bullet Bandit.
No, not the Bullet Bandit actually. The bullet, Sunday is the Bullet Bandit is Tuesday before class for the new book.
Chapter 3, right?
Sunday's this chapter though, chapter 3.
Review and apply.
Which ones? All of them? Odds. So we're gonna do number 6 right now. So on your, you can pull out your notebook paper. We're not gonna hand anything out here. You don't have to copy the question. I just be ready with the notebook paper to try to get some answers.
Which chapter we need to do?
This is
Tuesday of the order.
Chapter 3.
the introduction and chapter 1.
The Bullet Bandit.
Yeah, it's in Blackboard.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so we have hoverboards. You guys seen Back to the Future with the hoverboard? Michael J. Fox with the wheels, and so that's kind of a fun classic movie. So using figure 3.3 as a starting point, figure 3.3 is the martini glass. Consider the effect of introducing hoverboards. Suppose hoverboards decrease travel time for consumers from 1/10 per round trip to 1/20 per round trip mile. Illustrate the implications for the radius of the market area, including a value for the new radius. So hoverboards from 1/10 to 1/20. So 3.3 is the one you have in front of you from the old one. It's just our martini glass. So the author's just building on that. So Mackenzie, this is your picture you had before, but if you want to snap a fresh picture, you could. It's just the martini glass with milk and the distance to the factory. Oh, the milk is the price of the shoes, remember? So the top of the martini glass came up with a 14-mile market area. And with that problem, 1 mile, we went 1/10, right? So it was 0.1 up of cost. The slope of the martini glass was 1/10. And now it's 1/20. Go. didn't see any numbers on
I don't know.
it.
Wait, you have it going closer.
So yeah, first of all, definitely talk about, you know, is it getting wider or is it getting narrower?
Wider.
Wider, so we can get there quicker.
Cost them less, so we can go further.
What's the question?
The question is just what happens to the market area. So you have the market area from before.
So you just illustrate it?
Because it costs.
You can just write down an answer. What's it going to go to? You guys, some of you figured it out yet?
Because they know the opportunity cost of
Oh, you know, I guess I forgot that this one is actually a little bit different, isn't it? Yeah.
Didn't mention that.
These numbers are, this is different than the example, sorry. In the old version, that's why Carlos asked if you guys could do the 8th edition of the book. You can't because they really overhauled it. So they changed the examples, the chapters don't match up. So I didn't realize you guys didn't have this in front of you from the old problem. So why don't you go ahead and copy that down for starters. Some of you did real quickly maybe. This was the example I went in the overheads though. Remember it was 30 cents was the height of the stem at the 0. And then with the transaction cost being at 1/10, it created a market area where the opportunity cost of a shoe was 1 gallon of milk. And so that gave us our market area of that. So sorry, I apologize about that. I forgot. I thought it was the same thing you had in front of you. That's why Lawson was all in fictitious without real numbers. Yeah, this is your starting place.
The number on top still in 1?
Yes, the number on top is still 1.
It's just basically
As soon as you get an answer, shout it out.
it won't help because it costs them less so they can go further.
This costs the consumer less, so they can go further.
Show you.
Yeah, I remember it saying.
Yeah, and remember the consumer, it was the consumer, yeah.
It widens the market area.
So everybody's got this picture down?
It's basically just supposed to illustrate.
Yes. There.
Wait, so we're just drawing a picture?
That's the thought.
I just had.
So draw the picture with all the details in it, and then we're going from 1/10 per round trip to 1/20th. So remember that it's equivalent whether it's the consumer driving to the store or the store shipping it to the consumer. Somebody's got to pay the shipping. And so the stem is the cost to the employer without shipping. And so in the way this one's characterized here, we're going to say that basically the shipping cost is now less, so it's easier for the person who's only 7 miles out can get there pretty fast, right? So what's your market area now with 1/20th? And in fact, I think you guys should attempt to do a formula this time, like we did with the net price. It's really the same thing, right?
Can you go back to the picture, please?
If you, let me try to flip to the, well, let's see.
Question is, what's the price of
I'm assuming we would.
So the height is 30 cents. If you live right at Walmart, right next door to Walmart, then you just pay 30 cents.
And are these the same numbers?
Yeah.
This is the same number from the overhead that we did before, yes. Yeah, this is the picture that we did.
But it didn't give us that number in this next one, we have to find it.
It went from 1/10 to 1/20th, right? With the hoverboard,
So it went from 10 cents per round trip.
10
5
cents.
Okay, that's what it is.
to 1/20th.
For a mile. Oh my gosh, no, it's
Answer, answer, answer.
How do you get the area?
The what?
The base or the is.
You got your picture?
You asking for the area, right? You're
I'm asking for the market area, yeah.
Thank you.
It was 14 miles on the old one.
Oh, so it'll double the rate.
I mean, so the market area was 7 one way, but remember then you double it. So the market area was 14 miles. And what is it now?
28.
28? So what's the formula that we could attempt to do for this one? Try to get you guys thinking quantitatively here. I know some of you are like, no, not a formula. But we're really talking about the net price to the consumer now. Remember, to the consumer.
Round trip miles.
The way we've got this characterized, unlike the farmer, is how much? How much?
80.
30 cents. If you live how far from Walmart?
0.
0. If you have travel expense, you have to add on
20.
20 or 10? 10 what? 10 cents per mile, so that would be 1/10 or 10.1 times the number of miles that you are. Right? And so now the new one, that was the old one, the new one is 1/20th per mile. So there's your formula. Now, to calculate that, what is the most that anybody will pay? $1. So what could we do with this net price formula to solve for that? The most somebody, it's almost like we're solving for an equilibrium, isn't it? It's kind of weird.
Put $1 for the net price.
Put $1 for the net price. The most anybody would pay is $1 for the net price. So in equilibrium, or I should say the maximum point, I shouldn't say equilibrium the way that is, but that's the most somebody would pay. So that is the Nash equilibrium in terms of identifying the market area, is 1. 1 equals 0.3 plus 1/20th m. Looks like we got 0.7 equals 1/20th m. M equals 20 times 0.7. M equals 14. Now, is 14 the market area? No, because what we just solved for is the one-way trip, and now we've got the other way to take into account too. So the market area, if we were to do the full thing, that's the miles driven, this M, but MA is equal to 2 times M if we're going to put our formula glasses on, right? That would be a formula that captures the way we're calculating market area, pretty simple formula, but 2 times 14 equals 28 miles is the market area. Okay, piece of cake. Questions on that? We're not done. Part B, that was part A. So this is the way your homework's going to go. That's the type of stuff you got to do with your homework. Not necessarily come up with a formula, but you got to justify yourself a little bit. That could be in words or otherwise. Suppose hoverboards also decrease commuting cost of factory workers, decreasing the cost of urban travel from 80 gallons to, or 0.8 gallons to 0.3 gallons. Illustrate the effect on the radius of the market area of the factory, including the value for the new radius. So 0.8 to 0.3. So what the hell do they even mean, 0.8 to 0.3? 0.8, so hoverboards, now we're talking the workers at this place, not the shoe wearers, the shoe buyers, right? We're talking about the workers now. So the workers at the factory have a decrease in cost now from 0.8 gallons to 0.3 gallons. Let's kind of talk through possibilities with this one. So who are we talking about first of all? What's going to happen over time? In fact, I guess, remember this picture? This was gallons of milk, and this was the breakdown of the 30 cents. This was 20 cents, 12 cents, 8 cents, and then that's our 30 cents. So that's the height of the stem, right? That was the cost at the factory. We got an opportunity cost of labor, the cost of city living, and the commute cost. And then we've got the capital cost. 0.8, 0.08. So what are some things that you think might happen here when we have the people decreasing the cost of urban living from 0.8 of a gallon to 0.5 of a gallon? That's a pretty good gallon. That's a pretty good amount, right? It's basically a half gallon savings of their costs, right? A half gallon savings of their cost for the labor. So, Zeke, what are you thinking?
So the stem, it's shrinking. So if you just subtract,
Why is the stem shrinking?
it costs less to make it because it costs less to get there. So the worker is not
Keep going.
having to pay as much to get there. So
And then there's one more link. You're doing really good, by the way. I didn't expect most of you to get this. So why would the company be able to take advantage of commuter costs going down for their workers? Jonathan?
So they could pay the workers a little bit less.
They could pay the workers a little bit less. Now this comes back to one of our principles that in a competitive market, we expect normal profits, right? So in a competitive market, if there's an advantage, then people can accept less of a wage, right? They can potentially accept less of a wage. Now, there's going to be market forces that are going to kind of jockey back and forth. So with these examples, we kind of have to work with that. But they're going to have lower cost overall. And now we start to see the thing that we saw in some of the writing in chapter 2 in this one, that we have people having incentives to gather close together in a higher density in a city and live near where they work, right? Live near where they work, if that's the case. Okay, so this is where it gets a little dicey, where I want to walk through, but that's the right logic of this. So when we think about the land and commuting cost, that is just a fraction of this cost, right? So there's a half a gallon worth of savings to the consumer, but how much of that is going to impact this equation? Well, what fraction of cost of city living does the total cost make up? What fraction? You're gonna have to pull out your calculator for this.
Let's
And
say
you can pull out your phones, by the way, put them on airplane mode,
8%.
because I think it's important for you to do that. It's not 8%, I don't think.
It's like 26, 27.
What numbers are you doing? So fraction of city living equals what number divided by what number?
0.08 divided by 0.3.
0.3 equals
0.267.
0.267, which is 26.7%. So if there's a half a gallon savings by consumer, How much of that is going to factor into this? It's 26% of that. So a half times 26.7 equals how much? 13.35. So 13. Oh, you need to do 0.26. You should have all decimals here. I put the percent here, but this is really 1/2 times 0.267 equals 0.1337, right? Okay, so now we've got 13 cents coming off of the 30 cents. So there's your stem shrinkage. The stem's going to go from 30 to now 26 point, and this is 0.3, remember? So now it's going to come down 13 to, what is that, 16, 0.6 and 6.6, right? 6.3. So there you go. There's your new stem. Figure out your market area.
That doesn't make sense to me. If that's only affecting 26% of your 30 cents, how is it dropping it by almost half? So the fraction of the total cost was this amount, right? Yeah.
So the savings from the half gallon is going to be spread by the fractional amount that it was in the overall production process. So that made up 26% of the process. So there's going to be a 26% savings off of the total cost, because that's the fraction of the cost that it was, and we're assuming fixed percentages between the two. So just work out the math.
We saved them.
We can circle back to it later. With the new stem being 16 cents, what happens to the illustrate the effect on the radius of the and this built on each other. So now we're at the 1/20th. So we're at this thing, but now you've got a new stem. I mean, here's your answer pretty much, right? 1.663. Figure out that number, multiply times 2, and we're done. First person with an answer, shout it out for the full market area.
36.67 miles.
36.67. Do I have a second?
I have 33.
33.
It depends on how many decimals you want to
It should be just a round, but you're closer to 33. It should be maybe a little bit of rounding, but not 3 units, not 3 miles, I wouldn't think. So we got 2 33s. That's why we're getting multiple answers. I don't have this calculated, guys. I don't have the answer keys, so this is all you. You guys should be able to, I do expect you to be able to do this. So calculate out with 0.163, calculate your number, and then multiply it times 2. You're just following this logic all the way down. So 33 or 36? Jacob says 33. 33, you got the 33? Okay, so we got like 4 33s. So Lawson, sounds like your 36 is being overruled. Maybe it's just rounding. You are pretty close, but. All right.
Instead of this, we have this. So then it's a 1. Top one.
Because you're just going pages.
Oops. There we go. Number 8, Drama City. Consider a region where households produce and consume drama, either live performances or broadcast television. After accounting for prices, the utility, what's utility again? Happiness, we're going to come to that in the next chapter again too. The utility from a live performance is 24 utils, which I always have hated that word. But units of happiness, 24 utils, compared to 6 utils for a televised performance. There are scale economies in the production of live drama, which is provided at a performance venue at the center of the region. The travel cost is 2 utils per round trip. Illustrate the equilibrium market area of the performance venue, including a value for the radius of the market area. So now you're on your own to draw your own martini glass here.
Professor Rush,
Yeah.
it's a round trip line to me. So,
She's like a mile.
Yeah, so that if you have to go to the event and come back home. So it's taking into account the whole round trip. So start drawing a martini glass. You know the generic one. I would just kind of like doing supply and demand. Just start with a generic martini glass. That's a good way to get your brain engaged. Instead of staring at a blank paper, draw a blank martini glass. And then talk to your neighbors about what belongs on the axes. With the martini glass one, the distance is always on the horizontal. But think about what you're measuring on the vertical. Critical thinking. Here we go. Talk about the axes.
You said just chapter 3, didn't you?
Huh?
You said just chapter 3, didn't you?
Chapter 3 what? It's the odd numbered only though. So yeah, you don't get the answer, Bryce. Come on, you're smarter than that. Get working. Oh, the question? Yeah, that's in the PDF. But the question's right there. Or you can't see it, or? The answers aren't there. The question is what I have on the screen. That's all we have for starters. So think about the stem. Think about the center. Well, which one? You're not staying at home. The location of the venue is at 0. So which do you like better? Which do you like better? Live, right? So your martini glass is going to be kind of weird looking, but the venue is at 0. The venue is at 0. So
I don't understand.
I'm going to put quote unquote martini glass. In fact, I probably gave you bad advice by drawing a blank. I kind of forgot this, honestly, you guys. So I'll just fess up. Think more about your sugar beets. The sugar beet. You said you picked up on that, Tyler? Yeah. No, it's just happiness. So think about the sugar beet. I totally misled you and I didn't mean to. Think more about the sugar beet one. The martini glass, quote unquote, the concept's the same, but it's more like the sugar beet one. Where are you the happiest? You got 24 units of happiness at distance 0 if you're able to get to the event. But your happiness goes down because of travel costs of 2 units of, you're losing units of happiness the time that you gotta stay in the car. Think about that. And then at what point would you rather just watch TV, or was it watch TV or listen to it? What did they say? Television, yeah. At what point would you rather just stay home and watch TV rather than drive to the venue?
At 9 miles.
At 12.
At what?
At 9 miles, you're indifferent.
Okay, so you got a 9, so Bryce got a 9.
I got a 12.
I have a 12 too.
You got a 12.
But at 12, it would cost you 2 units of happiness per mile, 2 times 12.
Okay, Bryce, why don't you come up and share your work?
It's gonna be 0. So then you're gonna go.
On the board.
Come on up, yeah, on this. I mean, with your own paper. Bring your
I didn't
paper.
write anything.
Oh, you'll start writing when you come up then. Don't do this stuff in your head. You guys, I'm going to ask you to come up and do it. So we'll just have Bryce do it on the spot. Yep, go to the document camera. There you go. So draw your model. See what you guys keep working on your own. He's got work to do. Sounds like. Think about the sugar beets. Your highest level of satisfaction. The sugar beet was the upside down martini glass. That's the one we just did.
When you need to move 12 miles, you're using so then you're gonna-
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
That's what I think since we didn't say
That
anything
actually
about
makes
it.
sense.
Alright, so let me see where you're at. There you go. Now you're talking, except this is going to be 24, right?
Oh, yeah.
So at
okay.
0, and put your 0's not here, your 0's here.
Oh, okay.
Because at the venue, yeah, so that's a 24, but you're right, the worst it's going to go down to is potentially, well, I shouldn't say that. 6 is your marker of something where you're going to watch the TV. So start at 0, and you should have a height of 24. So you are going to be back to the martini glass. Put a 0 here instead. Let's just start with a new one.
Okay.
All right, put a 0 right there. And then put a 24 over here. That's the happiest you could get is if you happen to live right above the venue, right? So go ahead and put a dot there. And then your happiness declines as you move away from the venue.
Yeah.
So
No,
for
no.
you,
So, the venue.
okay, you're doing it like this. Okay, so basically we're gonna ignore this, right? Okay, so there we go. So 24. Yep, you got the right idea. And then think about how the 6 plays into this.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's declining and you're going.
Upside down, 0,
This is what
good.
the venue is. At 0.
So the 6 is a kind of a special location, but not necessarily. Why don't you guys make a formula for the 2 trade-off, right? 1 mile away. What's your happiness at 1 mile away?
1.5.
22.
22. 2 miles away.
20.
So you can write a formula to show what that looks like if you go how far. And then you can set it equal to 6 if you want, but that's because that's where you're indifferent between watching it on TV and traveling.
So something like that.
So I led you astray when we did this, so give me your pencil. I think it's easier to start over. So this is at 0, and we could have 24 of happiness, right? And this is distance. And so now, when we move away from the venue, our happiness goes down according to 2 units per mile, right? So it's an upside down martini glass, like our sugar beet example. Okay, so Bryce, go ahead and explain what you did there. Let's everybody look at what Bryce has got.
So I did the formula, so you have 24 is the most you can have if you live right there, and then it's minus 2 units of happiness per mile. So when you said it's equal to 6, because that's where you're finding the indifference, so then I just moved the 6 over to make it 18, and I moved the 2M over, and at 9 miles you're indifferent between watching TV.
Okay, and I can't remember what the question asked. How would you complete this graph?
Oh, that was.
Okay, need to know that too. So let me start you off. You can stay up here while I see those. Let's see if you can finish it off. You're doing good. The one thing I couldn't remember though from the problem though is illustrate the market area. So you're not quite right with that. But basically at 24 is this, right? So that's 0. And now show me where the 6 goes in there and everything else. Like, finish off that graph. So did you guys get it? So Bryce was close, but the 9 was not the market area.
How would I find it?
So you're not actually trying to bring this down to force it to 6. It has its own slope.
Okay.
You're setting it equal to 6 is what you did, like what Bryce did here.
Yeah.
So that solves for 9. So now, if anything, you'd go at 9. And then that is that, right?
Okay.
But now, where does the 6 belong? If you know that that comes down to 9 on the horizontal axis, good, that's looking good. So, and the last thing that we do is at 6 is kind of this, that's like what we did before where it was so then what's the market area though? You're still not there.
So it's 18 the market area.
18, so yeah, the market area is 2 times it, good. So here, Bryce has got it now. So we had the 6, and so we set equal where that formula equaled the 6, gave you your 9, which is this distance. Market area is 2 times it. Okay, Bryce, grab a seat. Thank you.
I figured it out. Thank you, Ralph.
Okay, any last questions on that one? Okay, so that should give you enough ammunition for tackling the homework due for Sunday night. So you have the odd questions, and some of this is related to some of the way those are, and gave you a little extra practice since these two were the even. Once in a while, by the way, I'll do the odd ones too, and it'll just give you a head start on your homework. All right. Any last questions? Good? All right, so chapter 4. So, agglomeration. So, agglomeration is just the idea of companies grouping together. So, we've already talked about Hollywood being for films. The video, Ed Glazer mentioned the garment factory for buttons for like making garments in the fashion industry. New York City, the runway, right? Some of those reality TV shows. So, the fashion industry has had a hub. What else is in New York City? What's that street called?
Wall Street.
Wall Street. So it's a financial hub, right? So a lot of stock trading and all of that stuff has been a hub there. Pittsburgh Steel and Detroit automobiles. We had Ford, GM, and Chrysler all there. I think they're still there in some capacity, but not the way they used to be. So that is this idea of clustering and what we more formally call agglomeration. Why are they doing it? Well, there's external economies of scale. So first of all, what was we've never talked about, at least I don't think in any other class I talk about external economies of scale. So we're making a distinction. In general, what's economies of scale?
You produce more.
Produce more and
Costs go down.
costs go down. Long run average cost. So it's a long run concept that costs are going down. Now, so what this is giving us insight to is that there could be internal economies of scale, which is probably the way I described it in most of the other circumstances. Because that's kind of our first step in thinking about it, is I can do it because I'm utilizing my machines more, right? Instead, I bought a $100,000 piece of equipment, and now that I'm producing double what I used to, that piece of equipment can be running for 18 hours a day. So I'm being more efficient with the equipment I got, is one example. And so we have these average cost of production at larger scales going down, at larger levels going down. So that's economies of scale. What we didn't talk about before is the possibility of external economies of scale. So that is something from the outside. The fact that I have, if I'm the dressmaker up in New York, and the button manufacturer, this is an example that'll be in the text, the button manufacturer is right next door, and I'm trying to design a brand new fashion for this upcoming spring. then I can go over there and look at thousands of different buttons with different colors, different sizes, different shapes, and pick out the perfect button that'll go on my new dress that I'm designing for the spring fashion show, right? And so if I didn't have that shop next door, I might have to do maybe some virtual thing with today's world. Of course, that wasn't possible 40 years ago in New York. So you'd have to travel maybe to a place. They would send you button samples, but they couldn't send you all 5,000 button samples, right? So they would give a catalog that had one particular button, but then let you know, hey, we have 20 other colors of this button. You see what I mean? All of that's adding transaction costs to the mix, and rather if they locate together, then we might have some benefits there, to both companies for that matter. Okay, so we got localization economies and urbanization economies are the two general types. All right, so give this a read. Okay, so this kind of helps drill down some of the issues. We're going to talk about each one of these in detail. So sharing intermediate input producers. What's an intermediate input? Intermediate
Like
input.
sell inputs to all the companies.
What's that? That it sells? Something that sells to?
Yeah.
Just want to make sure I understood you right.
Like everybody use that one.
No. It's more about your company is what we want to focus in on. Let me go, Lawson.
Maybe, for example, like Roma, they supply lots of different types of foods, and maybe like a bunch of restaurants together would use that same producer and have them come in at the same time.
Okay, all right. So partially that you're touching on the right things. I haven't heard it perfectly yet. Bryce, you had thought? What did you say? Rome? What did you say?
Roma.
Roma?
At pizza time, that's who they use.
Oh, that's a pizza supplier. Because Cisco is what came to mind when you said Roma. Cisco is like they supply crap to tons of restaurants, all kinds of food. So an intermediate good is anything that could be partway in the production process already, like it's a good itself maybe, it's a finished good, but you bundle it together, or it's an intermediate, like it's not quite, it's a component to your production process, but you had it fabricated over here, and then you bring it to your line, and then you add more stuff to it, right? So in terms of the value add of the production process, we start from very raw materials, and then we build it up. Well, we could do all of that ourselves, starting from the rawest of the raw materials, but typically what we do is we'll hire a company that takes it from raw material up to another level, and then we'll buy it at that level and plug it into our production process. So that's the idea of intermediate input producers. And there could be some sharing arrangements among them. Common labor pool, what's your gut feeling on that? Tapping a common labor pool. Think of you being a producer again. Maybe let's shift gears to Hollywood. We can go from East Coast to West Coast like that in this class. So Hollywood, tapping a common labor pool. Let me get somebody else. This one, thank you though. Somebody besides somebody who hasn't talked yet today. Julian's ready to talk.
Like using the same studios?
Okay, same studios. But what about the labor? So that would be a little bit more of the physical space, but specifically labor in Hollywood. You could still stick with your studio possibly.
Same actors and such.
Same actors and stuff, right? So there's a possibility of actors if one play or a film production or a television production comes along, we've got these people that are right here and we can have access to them. And that's going to lower travel costs and stuff for the actors and actresses. Okay? Skill matching. That one's a little bit difficult. What we're trying to match is not actor to actor, but rather business to employee. I need a person who can do this, right? This is like the classic thing that people come to Ottawa University and say, I need some good graduates that can do A, B, C, and D, right? So they have an idea of a person with a set of skills. And when they look at the labor pool, they say, oh man, everybody stinks, right? They can do A and B, but not C and D. And some people can only do A. I really need, at a minimum level, somebody who can do A, B, C, and D, right? And then the more detailed the type of job it is, the skill set becomes smaller and smaller with the people who can do it. And so that's what this skill matching thing does, is if we have firms clustering together, then people with all A, B, C, and D skills will find it beneficial that, oh, I could get a job with this guy. Oh, I could get a job with this guy. With my crazy, unique skills, there happens to be 5 companies that are in this particular city, and I can go work for any of them, right? So that's the idea of the skill matching part. And then knowledge sharing. So knowledge spillovers can come in a variety of forms, but one of them I think is kind of fun, is just going to the bar for a drink after work. You know, what do people do if they don't work for the same company, but they go and have a beer after work? What do they talk about a lot of times? Work, right? And so now all of a sudden, if we have companies that are in similar industries, or whether that's at the intermediate input level or others, all of a sudden you have this knowledge sharing that's kind of free. You're off the clock. You're at the bar having a drink. Do you think some business deals get hashed at the bar?
Yeah.
Yeah, right? And it's like, huh, I never knew your company did that. We're actually working on this project, right? That's how the conversation starts. So you've got this kind of knowledge sharing that can go on in clusters that wouldn't otherwise maybe go on if companies weren't clustered, that were of a similar nature, right? There'd be less of those commonalities and less possibilities of being able to exploit it. All right, so let's call it a day there. We'll pick up there. Mark your calendars. You're getting out early today. We'll see you on Tuesday. So we're off Monday. So Tuesday, make sure you get the Glazer book.